We have the latest emissions data coming in. It doesn't factor in COVID-19, but it does still show that emissions have gone down for the past completed year. And according to the Minister, we are on track to meet our 2030 commitment, albeit it seemingly still needs the Kyoto carryover mechanism. The Minister joins me now, Energy Minister Angus Taylor. Thanks very much for your time, patiently standing by there. So emissions down 0.9%. Drought was a factor, though, to helping that out, if you like, and we don't want a drought every year. Is it a pretty gradual process still, these emissions coming down? Would you have liked to see this figure more rapidly coming down?
No, look, I think it's coming down at a good rate and a sensible rate in line with our strategy and policy of technology, not taxes, Tom. And of course, the important point here is the trend line is down. We saw a 4.5% reduction in the electricity grid, which is a very big number. That's creating its own challenges, but all of this is happening at the same time as we've seen very significant reductions pre-COVID in the wholesale price of electricity and gas. And so that's good news. You know, we're getting the trifecta here: lower gas prices, lower electricity prices, and lower emissions. And that's what technology, not taxes, is about. It's about actually reconciling a strong economy with falling emissions. That's exactly what we're seeing.
So what we obviously need to see, the whole economy transforming over time to be lower emissions. If you look at construction and commercial sectors, they're actually increasing in the past year. Is that part of the economy not transforming yet, and why not?
Well, the really critical thing you see in the data is that domestic emissions for domestic consumption, goods and services we use here in Australia, have been falling rapidly and for a long while. In fact, we've already beaten our 2030 target. Right now, we've beaten that target. Where we've seen, of course, the other effect going on is our exports, which have been growing dramatically. We've created the biggest LNG export, liquefied natural gas export industry in the world in about a decade. And of course, that's reducing emissions in Japan, in Korea, in China. But it does have an impact on our emissions. It's good for the world, but it makes life harder for us. So we have been, that's been the challenge. And that's important, but at the end of the day, we want to strengthen our export sectors. We want to strengthen our economy. We think we can do that in a way which is consistent with bringing down emissions, and that's about technology, not taxes. It's working, Tom. It will keep working as long as we're sensible and we keep our eye on the main ball, which is getting people back into work, a strong economy coming out of COVID-19, lower cost of living, lower prices at the same time as technology bringing down our emissions.
Just on gas and the role it will play, fugitive emissions continue to increase. So 10% of our national emissions come from this now. You mentioned how it's good for the world. Is there a bit of a question mark about that? I mean, how low emissions is gas as part of a long-term future?
There's no question mark at all. I mean, it's very clear that countries that are using gas are actually dramatically reducing their emissions. We see it in the United States, indeed, where the United States, despite that it's actually getting out of the Paris Agreement, I mean, its emissions are coming down rapidly, and gas has been absolutely central to that. We see it in the UK and other countries in Europe. So we know gas is a very important part of this story. Good news with gas in Australia is prices are coming down, so that's very good for Australian manufacturing. We need those lower wholesale prices being translated through into long-term contracts. But this is good for emissions, it's good for affordability of energy, and it's good for the manufacturing sector. And you know, that's why we think gas is an important part of the mix, not the whole mix, but an important part of the mix in the coming years.
A story today saying that you're already ruling out an increase to the Paris target at the next meeting, which happens next year. Is that a decision that's been taken by the whole cabinet then, and what's it based on?
Well, we have a strong target. We have a pre-existing target, which we set many years ago, and we're already on track to meet and beat it. We'll beat our 2020 target by 411 million tonnes. That's almost a year's worth of emissions as of December last year. And every year since we've been in government, Tom, we've improved our position. Now we seek to meet and beat targets. Other countries, they'll set targets and they don't meet them, they struggle. We go the other way around. We set a target, that we beat it, and we try to beat it by as much as we possibly can. That's what we're doing with the 2020 target, and we'll do the same with the 2030 target.
On that, though, the IPCC says a 45% reduction is needed across the board by 2030 if we're to meet the 1.5 degrees, which Australia's signed up to, and obviously different countries do different things. But by Australia sticking to its target, are we effectively saying to other countries, well, you have to do more to get there?
Look, Tom, we've got a strong target already, and we seek to meet and beat it, as we always have. So, you know, we'll absolutely smash our 2020 target. And very few countries are in this position. I mean, if you look at New Zealand or Canada, their emissions have essentially not gone down since 2005. We're already way down on that level, about 14% down. So there's very few countries can boast our performance. And what we always seek to do is meet and beat targets and deliver. And that's exactly what we are doing. And the key to that, technology, not taxes. Lots of people would love to tax our energy sector, raise the cost of living, do damage to our export sectors. But frankly, that's not our approach. We've got the track record. We're going to keep staying the course.
When you say meet and beat, though, do you think there's any way we'll get to 45%? Again, this is the IPCC number they say is needed by 2030. Can you envisage any future where Australia would reach that anyway, even if it's not set in stone?
Well, you know, the way you divvy up what each country does in the world, of course, what matters here is what it is. But what matters here is the global outcome. And of course, everyone has to do their bit. The truth is that we are doing far more than many countries in the world, and we will keep doing far more because we are good at using technology. We can do it without damaging our economy. In fact, we can do it strengthening our economy in areas like energy efficiency. There's very few countries in the world that are even close to us on the way we're using household solar on people's roofs. So we'll continue down that path, and we'll continue to deliver, Tom.
And so just to clarify on the comments today around here's our target, this is what we're taking to next November's meeting, the one that's been pushed back to Glasgow, that's a process. Has that gone through Cabinet? That's all signed off?
So no, Tom, I'm not going to speculate on the long-term strategy, which we have already flagged many, many times that we'll take to Glasgow, which is now going to be, it seems, at the end of next year, not the end of this year. The technology roadmap is crucial to that, and the long-term strategy, of course, will be an outcome of that. And you know, we'll have more to say about that long-term strategy in the coming months. But our 2030 target is very clear. It has been for a long while, and our performance is the key. Other countries don't perform like us. Delivery is what matters here. You can set whatever your target you like, Tom, but if you don't deliver, then you don't get the outcomes you need. And that's the Australian approach.
So when you mention the technology roadmap as well, I mean, once that emerges and we figure out the technologies and what they might deliver, that could theoretically, couldn't it feed into a situation where, oh, you can say we're easily going to beat that, we'll set a new target of 32. I mean, that's on the table, isn't it?
Tom, I know you would love me to announce every last detail of the long-term strategy, which will be done for November last year, but I'm not going to do that today. I'll just make the same point. Our approach and principles are very simple. Deliver, technology, not taxes. Don't weaken the economy. Don't do all the things that the other side of politics have constantly wanted to do in this area to damage jobs, economy, incomes.